Quick ask. Subscribe now, then let's jump in with the numbers. You can feel it before anyone puts it into a headline. Streets that used to buzz on Saturday open houses feel thinner now. The same stucco boxes, mid-century ranches, and glass condos are still here, but the energy around them has shifted. Price cuts slide quietly into the listing history. Days on market stretch just long enough for sellers to start asking, did we miss it? Neighbors who once bragged about bidding wars now whisper about testing the market and then pulling their homes back down. In 2025, the old line that California is different finally hit a wall in some places. Not everywhere, not all at once, but in a handful of cities where the math just stopped working. That's what this video is about. I'm going to walk you through 9 California cities where prices have actually broken, visible in real reductions, not clickbait. We'll rank them, unpack why they cracked, and talk about what calm, numbers-first buyers, sellers, and investors do next, while everyone else argues in the comments. By the end, you'll know exactly where you stand in this cycle. In 2025, the story didn't change with a dramatic crash. It changed with a calculator. The house didn't grow an extra bedroom. The neighborhood didn't suddenly become worse. What changed was the monthly. Mortgage rates stayed higher than everyone's hopeful forecasts. Property taxes crept up with past appraisals. Insurance and HOA dues inched forward. Suddenly, the same home that felt tight but doable in 2021 now feels like a second full-time job. Buyers aren't dumb. They can feel when the payment crosses a line. For years, the mantra was California always bounces back, and for a while that belief carried prices further than local paychecks could justify. But beliefs don't make the bank draft smaller. Wage growth lagged, commuters hit their limit, families ran the numbers and stepped back instead of overextending. That isn't doom, that's pressure releasing. Prices in certain metros didn't soften because California stopped being desirable. They started repricing because the math stopped working for normal people. So when you hear about these 9 cities, don't picture abandoned streets or fire sale chaos. Picture markets where list-to-sale ratios, days on market, and price cuts are finally admitting what locals already knew. And here's the twist. Some of the places flashing red aren't fringe desert towns. A few are trophy suburbs and safe mid-tier cities people assumed could never blink. Before we start the countdown, I want you to understand how I built this list. I'm not ranking based on vibes or TikTok clips. I'm looking at a simple bundle of signals. How many listings are cutting price? How long homes sit before going pending? How much inventory has crept up? And how far local wages are stretched by the new monthly? Wherever those lines cross, payment pressure, slowing demand, and seller denial, you start to see the first real cracks. That's where our countdown begins. At number 9, we start in Bakersfield. For years, Bakersfield was the pitch for more house for your money, the blue-collar commuter market where you could still find a yard, a garage, maybe even a pool without selling your soul. Families traded a longer drive and hotter summers for bigger homes and newer construction. In 2025, those same buyers look at the new payment plus gas, tolls, and rising insurance and quietly say, no thanks. Inventory thickens on mid-priced homes. The first to feel it are move-up sellers who listed at 2022 fantasy numbers and are now chasing buyers down the ladder. At number 8, we move to Fresno. Fresno rode the affordability magnet wave. Coastal refugees, remote workers, and local families all trying to get out of the most brutal price tags. For a while it worked. New builds popped up, and agents could honestly say, it's still cheaper than the Bay or LA. In 2025, the gap is narrower, but the payments are heavier. Younger buyers doing essential jobs, teachers, nurses, logistics workers, are stretched thin. You see more properties sitting just above the price points locals can truly support. First-time buyers and young families are the ones quietly backing away here. Not because they don't love Fresno, but because the numbers no longer love them back. Number 7 is Riverside, one of the Inland Empire's classic more house than LA bets. For years, Riverside's brand was simple. Same sun, same SoCal lifestyle, bigger house, less price. The trade-off was the drive. In 2025, that trade-off stopped feeling smart for a chunk of buyers. Higher rates pushed the monthly up. Gas and tolls never cut you a deal. Sitting an extra hour in traffic each way to overpay for a roof doesn't feel like a win anymore. Listings at the higher end take longer to move. Stretch first-timers and small landlords who bought when money was cheap are the ones who now feel the vice tightening. At number 6, we hit Sacramento, the remote work darling that soaked up Bay Area money during the pandemic. For a while, it was the perfect narrative. Sell your tiny Bay condo, buy a house with a yard in Sac, keep your tech salary. That inflow pushed prices fast, and locals watched their own hometown get repriced around them. In 2025, the energy changes. Remote work isn't as guaranteed. Some tech salaries flatten. Buyers become choosier. You start seeing more price cuts, longer days on market, especially for homes priced as if the 2021 migration wave never ended. The ones feeling pain first are Bay Area move-ins who bought high and now realize they're not as invincible as they thought. If those are only numbers 9 through 6, you can probably feel where this is going. The top 5 aren't just expensive markets. They're places where belief ran far ahead of sustainable affordability. At number 5, let's talk about San Diego. For years, San Diego was the underdog coastal that suddenly wasn't an underdog anymore. Beaches, biotech, military, lifestyle, everyone woke up and piled in. During the pandemic, it turned into a global Instagram ad. In 2025, the hangover shows up not in boarded-up streets, but in the monthly shock. Median prices plus higher rates mean even high earners are stretching. You see more high-end listings with price trims, more buyers insisting on concessions, and more locals quietly asking, is this really worth it? The first group feeling the pressure are dual-income professional couples who did everything right and still feel like they're renting their lives from the bank. Number 4 is the Stockton Lodi area, the classic "we're basically the Bay Area, just cheaper" pitch. For a while, that story sold. Commute in or work remote and pocket the difference. Investors and families alike treated it as an affordable spillover valve, but when cheaper inches up into still kind of brutal, the value story breaks. Commutes are long, public perception is mixed, and yet payments in 2025 start to resemble what used to be considered premium market territory. Listings that assumed endless Bay money hesitate on the market. Commuter families and leveraged investors are the ones blinking first. At number 3, we hit Irvine, the textbook aspirational suburb. Master planned communities, palm-lined streets, hyper-ranked schools, and HOAs that keep everything manicured. For years, people stretched beyond comfort simply to get Irvine on the address line. They accepted small yards, mellow roofs, and strict rules in exchange for status and perceived safety. In 2025, even status buyers feel the strain. The combination of high purchase price, HOA, taxes, and insurance creates a monthly that even strong 6-figure households hesitate to sign up for. Mid-level professionals and families chasing the school district badge are now splitting into 2 camps. Those willing to sacrifice everything for the zip code, and those who say, we're not burning our entire future for a logo. Now we enter the top 2, markets where belief and reality are in open conflict. At number 2, we land in Oakland. Oakland has always been complex, incredible culture, real challenges, and for the last decade, the value alternative to San Francisco. During the pandemic, Oakland became a darling of the remote work crowd and investors. Urban, edgy, cheaper than SF, tons of upside. Prices surged on that story. In 2025, some of that air is leaking out. Safety concerns, shifting remote work patterns, and higher borrowing costs mean buyers are more selective. Well-priced, well-located homes still move, but the marginal stuff sits and cuts. Investors and highly leveraged buyers who assumed endless appreciation are discovering that not every Oakland purchase was a guaranteed win. And at number 1, we have San Jose and the broader Santa Clara Sunnyvale belt. The ultimate can't-lose narrative. This is tech's front yard. Stock options, campus shuttles, incomes that make the rest of the country shake its head. For years, that income story was used to justify almost any price. In 2025, something subtle but important happens. Even here, you start seeing more price reductions, more buyers pushing back, and more listings mispriced off-peak comps. The city didn't suddenly become undesirable. But when stock portfolios are choppier, bonuses are less predictable, and mortgage rates are higher, the tolerance for million-plus starter homes weakens. The people feeling it first are mid-tier tech employees and newcomers who no longer view whatever it costs as a reasonable housing strategy. So what do you actually do with all of this if you're living in California or thinking about moving in or out? If you're a buyer, this is your invitation to stop thinking like a contestant in a game show and start thinking like a portfolio manager. You don't have to win a house. You have to secure a monthly that doesn't suffocate your life. In these 9 cities, that means paying more attention to days on market, price cuts, and seller behavior than to list prices or old comps. You look for motivated sellers, realistic pricing, and homes that work on today's terms, not yesterday's peak fantasies. And if the numbers don't work, you walk calmly without FOMO. If you're a seller, especially in one of these markets, the message is simple but not easy. The market does not care what you could have gotten in 2022. Pricing off that emotional anchor is how you end up chasing the market down and losing more than if you'd been realistic from day one. The smart move now is to decide who you are. Are you exiting entirely and prioritizing speed? Are you trading up and willing to give on price because you'll capture the same repricing on your next purchase? Or are you holding and renting, in which case you need to run honest cash flow numbers, taxes, insurance, maintenance included? Wishful thinking is the most expensive line item in a shifting market. For investors, this cycle is brutal if you were banking on endless appreciation and easy refinancing. But if you're willing to think like a risk manager, it's clarifying. You stop asking, will this area go up? And start asking, does this asset pay me to hold it, even if appreciation naps for 5 years? In Bakersfield, Fresno, Riverside, Sacramento, San Diego, Stockton, Lodi, Irvine, Oakland, and San Jose, that means focusing on rent-to-price ratios, understanding local job stability, and being realistic about future expenses. Insurance isn't going back to what it was. Property taxes rarely do. The players who survive this round are the ones who price that in now, instead of hoping to refinance their way out later. Stepping back, the bigger point is this. California isn't collapsing, it's being repriced. The coastline is still the coastline. The jobs, the culture, the climate, all the reasons people love this state didn't evaporate in 2025. What changed is that the cost of money finally forced a conversation about value. These 9 cities are just the clearest examples of that conversation playing out in real time. If you can learn to read the signals here, how beliefs, payments, and behavior intersect, you're going to be ahead of most people in every future cycle. So here's what I'd love from you. If you live in or near any of these markets, Bakersfield, Fresno, Riverside, Sacramento, San Diego, Stockton, Lodi, Irvine, Oakland, or San Jose, drop in the comments what you're actually seeing. Price cuts, stale listings, quiet open houses, or maybe pockets that still feel overheated. Your on-the-ground reality matters more than any spreadsheet. And if you want a place where we treat housing like grown-ups, no doom, no cheerleading, just honest risk and opportunity, hit subscribe, give this video a like, and share it with someone who still thinks California can't fall. It doesn't have to fall for the math to change. The real question now is whether you adjust with it or wait until the headlines finally catch up.